think I went over all the stuff that was previously covered. Integers, variables in general, logics, statements like ifs and case statements, methods, so both void and return type, went over all the loops, went over 1 and 2 dimensional arrays, constant variant values. I didn't go over converting stuff, but that's not too bad. So let's say you've got an integer, and let's say you've got a string, so string my string, and we've given the string a value that's equal to 1, but in its little quotation marks, and we want to convert that into a number that we can use in a calculation. Actually, that's not bad. Let's do that. So let's get rid of all this stuff. So get rid of this one as well, blah blah blah. Shing shing shing. Okay. Let's have an integer called Convert.ToInt, and then equals int dot, sorry, convert, what am I doing? I think it's because we haven't included our system library. Yes, let's just quickly do that. So we get access to all the .NET things, right? And we should get convert, yes, Convert.ToInt32. So that says put in some sort of value, so let's put in our string and convert that into a 32-bit integer. And remember, this is a method that has an input, just in the same way we've made a method with an input. So it's done that. And now that it's converted, we can call the method that we made and pass it in. Happy days. And then, it's going to return its result and do whatever. So we can say int equals this, like that. Can you include topics that are teaching in a stream title tomorrow? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to condense this and put it onto YouTube in little segments, and then you can just click the one that's relevant to you, and then that way you don't have to go through an hour-long stream. So yeah, it will all be on YouTube for your convenience, so don't worry about that. Right. So we've converted this integer, converted the string into an integer, and then use that as our method. This is a good segue to introduce overloaded methods. So an overloaded method is a method that has the same name as another one, but it just takes different inputs or does something different. So we can have our first method just in the same way we made the other one, but let's pass in a string instead, our input. Input, like this. And do all of this here. Copy and paste it in. So it's doing the same thing, but it's taking a string as an input instead. And there's a couple of things you can do, to do this, like to make this work. You could grab your input like this, and then convert it, if that makes sense. So you could say int converted value equals Convert.ToInt32, like similar to what you did before, like that, and then it's going to work as intended. So in this case it would be like this, but then you're like manipulating stuff, and that's not really that great. What you really want is to not copy and paste these things and just work off of the one, but still have a way to take different inputs. So what we could do is have an integer in here called converted value, and let's do our conversion. So Convert.ToInt32, pass in the thing that we have, our string, and then we're going to call our original method and pass in our converted value. So what we're doing here is have the same, and then we can, yes, I'll go over that in a second. So we're going to have the same sort of method twice. It contains a different input, so we're overloading this name with different functionalities. That's all it means. And this is complaining because we're not returning a value, but that's okay. We can say, you know, there's a second input conversion thing called int.Parse, and in particular there's one called int.TryParse, which takes in an input, so our input like this, and then we can specify the result, so we can have our converted value like this, and it's going to store it in there, but it's also going to return something which is a boolean, which is a true or false value. So let's say bool passed equals this, and now we can check if we passed. Go into here and do this. Otherwise, we can return -1, denoting, you know, oh, we haven't actually passed, we failed. And then here we can do return 1, and then it's all good. So one's saying, oh, you know, happy days, we converted our value, it's all good. But if not, we failed. Go back and say, oh, fatal error occurred. And that can be good because our input, the user may type in the letter H or something, which can't be converted into a number because it's a letter. So these are the sorts of things you can think about to future-proof your code so that people don't go crazy and break your system, you know. So that's the sort of thing that you can do with overloaded methods. So very quickly, we've got all this functionality that can work for strings and ints. You could do the same for a float. Similarly, if we have a vector from Unity, open the brackets. Let's just open the brackets again. So vector3 hello equals new vector3. Now we open the brackets. So you've got this one of 3. Start cycling through them. We've either got one with no inputs, another one with 3 floats, and then another one with just 2 floats. So already we're seeing overloading in action. You know, we can have any of these to choose from. Let's go with one that you're more familiar with, Convert.ToInt. You know, if we open these brackets, we've now got 19 different options to choose from. You know, it wants you to take a byte, a char, a date time value, a decimal, double, float, int, long, objects, all these sorts of things. And it can convert all of that into an integer. So that's why overloading is really important, because you can create one method, you know, that does loads of different things, does the same thing, but it takes different inputs to accomplish that. So to the user, it looks like you've got this one method called toInt32, but in actual fact, you've written 19 of them, but they just contain different input parameters. Like what we've got here, we've written 2 of these methods, but they contain 2 different values. And that's all it is. So we can put in my string here and just finish that off. So there you go. That was basically the tutorial. No, it's not. There's more complicated stuff. The first bit is more console based. The second bit is getting really stuck in with Unity, you know, depending on how comfortable you are. But the principles are still the same. You're still going to learn all this stuff. I think that's it. I think I went over everything in terms of programming. In terms of Unity, there's not too much of a jump. You know, you've created your script, and so long as that script is in your scene somewhere, it's going to activate and do stuff. And then, you know, if you want to control a game object, make it public in your script, and then so long as you're associating with it, it's okay. You know, the cube is here. If we were to, say, drag this script onto a different game object, you've created a second version of that script, and you don't want to do that at this stage because, you know, you've linked up your cube on the first one. If you click on the second one, it expects you to do it again, and what's actually happening is you're going to run all of this code twice, and if you're duplicating loads, it's going to run all that code however many times you duplicated it. So be careful with that. just make sure that you've got one instance of your code, in one spot. Otherwise you're going to get errors and you're going to wonder why. So there you go. I'll probably go over more Unity stuff in another stream. I've got a lot of stuff here to condense and put onto YouTube, but that is a major recap of all of your C# that you've learned all year. Actually, I've gone through the whole lot.